Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Horror Reads. This is the channel where I review horror and true crime books exclusively. These are all unscripted. These are books I read. I want to get the word out. I'm excited about them. And today we've got a good one. Oh, you don't want to miss out on this. If you haven't already read it, you're going to want to go buy it. If you have already, as always, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought of it. But the book I'm going to be talking about today is My Heart is a Chainsaw. Great title, by the way. Great title. It starts out, I'm just going to give you the basic plot. It's going to be the Reader's Digest version because there's a lot of things in this book that you need to discover on your own. And I don't like giving away spoilers if you haven't read it. So I'm going to go through the basic plot and then tell you why I liked it so much. It starts out great. Two Swedish people, a man and a woman, tourists in the United States, driving to a small town, dead of night, with a big lake to the side, surrounded by creepy woods. And they decide to do what any young, carefree people would do, go skinny dipping. Now, you add all those things together, a lake, deep in the woods, late at night, skinny dipping, you know nothing is good going to come out of that if you followed any kind of horror at all, and nothing does. So with that kind of opening, the author had me right from the get-go. I was hooked from there, and yet the best was still to come, because this book is seen through the eyes of the main character, Jade. She's a Native American 17-year-old with a bit of a troubled history. She lives in a town she doesn't want to be in. It's a poor town, no opportunities, that kind of thing. Very relatable to a lot of people, I think, especially younger people. Her family life is a wreck. Mother that's not around, hardly ever speaks to her. She's forced to live with her abusive alcoholic dad, and his even more abusive alcoholic friends are always hanging around. And so she's kind of an outcast. She doesn't have any real friends to speak of because she's awkward, she's shy, she internalizes things because of the things she's been through. And but she has one redeeming quality, and that is her release. The thing that keeps her sane, the thing that keeps her going is her love of horror movies, but especially slasher movies. And this book reads like a love letter to that genre. And it's one thing I really liked about it. She not only has a knowledge about these things, but an encyclopedic knowledge. Like, she knows plot lines, frontwards and backwards. She gets references. She can tell you behind the scenes stuff. She knows how a slasher is supposed to go. And you can tell the author put his love of that genre into the mind of Jade in this book, and through her, we're able to share his love of the slasher genre. And it's intriguing, and it's great. But on the other side of the lake there's some rich people moving in. They're going to build some fancy houses. They come with their big yachts and their boats. You know, we're talking lawyers, bankers, media moguls, and they're all bringing their family over there. And, of course, the side she lives on is poor and destitute and not very good. So there's a lot of animosity from the poor side of town to these rich people over here building their fancy things. But it does play an important part in the book, because this is where, once Jade discovers that the body of one of those Swedish teens from the opening has been found, she does some investigating of her own and realizes that this was just the initial blood sacrifice for what's to come. And she is convinced that there is actually finally going to be a real-life slasher movie happening in real life in her town, in the town she lives in. And she feels it's her obligation to make sure that things go down the way they're supposed to go down according to the slasher movie code. She has to find a final girl, and she thinks she's found one in the daughter of one of the rich people that live across the street. Letha Mondragon is her name. So her job is to awkwardly, and it is awkward because she's very reserved and very awkward at that stage in her life, Jade is, sidle up, befriend Letha, and somehow convince her of what's going to happen, that this murder was just the beginning. There's going to be many more to follow, and it's up to Letha to be that final girl, to find that inner something within her, the survivor instinct that Jade thinks she naturally has. So she has to do that, and of course, as I said, that's just a brief description. She's surrounded by peripheral characters that really stand out. Her history professor, who's really angry and upset at these people moving in across the lake. There's a sheriff who, even though he's kind of tired of Jade's meddling around and her breaking the law, nothing serious, but she's always getting in trouble, always seems to be the center of trouble happening, even if it's inadvertently. But he's still more of a father figure than her actual, abusive father is. And there's other interesting characters in the periphery throughout the book. But that's the basic plot. There's a slasher movie coming to town. She's the authority on slasher movies, and she has to make sure everybody is playing their part so it comes to the conclusion like it does in the movies she obsesses over. And like I said, that doesn't really do the plot justice, but there are reveals and things you have to read for yourself to get there, and I don't want to spoil any of that. Now, what I really like about it, besides the opening, and the fact that it, like I said, it's an homage and a love letter to the slasher genre, is how Jade is portrayed. Yes, she's troubled, and yes, she gets in trouble. She's not I won't say she's not a good person. She is a good person. You see the good in her, but she has a hard time communicating that because she's lost in this world of horror, and she's always getting in trouble. She's very awkward around people. She doesn't have any friends. She tries, but it always winds up not working out for her, for one reason or another. But I think she's a very relatable character to a lot of people. Now, at my crusty old age, maybe not so much me, but back when I was that age, there was a little bit of that in there. And I think a lot of younger people will feel for this character and recognize some of their own traits. And it was very realistic, I thought. And of course, it's a work of fiction, don't get me wrong, but very realistic. You really root for Jade. You really want her to succeed. You really want to see this happen. I mean, you don't want to see all the murders and all the killings, obviously, but you want to see her happy. You want to see her dream come true. You want to see her succeed in the mission that the book puts her through. And the ending of the book. Let's talk about the ending, because bodies start showing up every now and again. But that last third of the book, man, let me see how many cliches I can say about that. A real page turner, a thrill ride a minute, a roller coaster of emotion and blood. Couldn't put it down. My eyes were glued to the page. I think that about covers them all, but they would all be absolutely correct, even though they are cliches. Like I was trying to find a place, especially in that last longer chapter, I was trying to find a place to take a little break because of how late it was. But on the one hand, I didn't want to do it because I was so involved in the story and what was going on. Just the adrenaline was pumping, the tension that had been building throughout the book was just letting loose, and blood and gore and body parts flying everywhere and bodies being crushed and heads rolling and all that good stuff that I really didn't want it to end. And I didn't want to break that feeling off by bookmarking any part of it and then having to come back later and try to get into it again, if you know what I mean. So it wasn't like I had to finish it, but I felt like I had to, and I really, really wanted to. Did not want to put it down. Magnificent, full-on action, full-on horror, full-on gore ending. And of course, in between, we have the whodunits. Who's the slasher? And there are clues given through the thoughts of Jade, through her mind, and of course the author through his words, explaining why this person could be the slasher, how it makes sense considering the whole slasher genre, and how these killers in these movies come to be these killers, and the reasons and motivations behind it, which I found really, really fascinating. And so, almost like the original movie Scream, that everybody's a suspect. And that's more true in this book than almost any other. Everybody could be a suspect. At one point, Jade even thinks she could be the slasher. Because who knows, maybe she's blacking out and doing all these horrible things. They wouldn't make sense according to her, based on what she knows about slashers. It wouldn't be the first time that's happened in that genre. So at some point, you're going to go through a list of all these people and who could possibly be the slasher, and they all kind of make sense. I'm not going to give the ending away, but it will surprise you, and yeah, it'll keep you on the edge of your seat, especially that last long chapter, man. It's a, did I already say a roller coaster ride of fun and gore? I think I did, but that's about accurate. The book is called My Heart is a Chainsaw, and if you haven't read it already, I'll leave a link down below to buy it from Amazon, but it's available anywhere. So wherever you normally buy books, just go and check it out. If you got to go to the library to get it, no matter what you have to do, get your hands on this book and definitely read it. As I said, I don't give star ratings on my videos here, but it is definitely highly recommended from me. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And I know this author has several other novels, and if you know, this book is any indication, we're going to be talking a lot more about him and his books in the future, because I'm hooked, I'm a fan, I want to see what else he's got out there, and as always, I'm looking forward to what he does in the future. My Heart is a Chainsaw, pick it up. Also down below is a link to my Twitter, Horror Reads. If you want to hook up with me on there and talk about some of these things, feel free to do so. All right, I do want to thank you for taking the time to watch this, taking some of your time to sit here with me. I really do appreciate it. I hope everybody stays safe. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.